Have you ever laid awake in the deep silence of the night, when the world outside your window has finally slowed to a halt, and felt the strange, rhythmic thrumming of your own existence? There is a profound mystery that sits right behind your eyes, a mystery so immediate and yet so elusive that we often forget how truly terrifying it is. You are there. You are aware. You are a ghost in a biological machine, a silent observer looking out through windows made of jelly and protein, listening through sensors made of bone and fluid. But what exactly are you? For centuries, science has told us a very specific, very safe story about who we are. It has told us that you are the sum of electrical signals bouncing between wet, warm neurons. It has told us that your love, your fear, your memories of childhood summers, and your sense of self are nothing more than a trick of chemistry, a fleeting illusion generated by a lump of gray matter that will one day stop working. It is a lonely story. It is a story that says you are an accident of biology, trapped in a decaying vessel, separated from the rest of the universe by the hard shell of your skull. But what if that story is wrong? What if the truth is stranger, older, and infinitely more vast than we ever dared to imagine? Tonight, I want to take you on a journey into the most dangerous idea in modern science. It is a journey that will take us from the soft gray folds of the human brain down into the subatomic basement of reality, where the rules of space and time dissolve into mist. We are going to explore the possibility that your consciousness, that quiet voice reading these words right now, is not a biological accident, but a fundamental feature of the universe itself. We are going to ask a question that keeps physicists and neuroscientists awake in the early hours of the morning. Is the mind a quantum phenomenon? If the answer is yes, then everything you think you know about life, death, and your place in the cosmos is about to change. The implications are terrifying, not because they are monstrous, but because they are so vast that they threaten to swallow our small, comfortable understanding of reality whole. They suggest that you are not just in the universe, but that the universe is, in some impossible way, inside of you. So, take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears, unclench your jaw. Let the tension of the day drift away like smoke in a gentle breeze. We are going to walk to the edge of what is known, and then, together, we are going to step off into the beautiful, terrifying dark. To understand why the new theories of quantum consciousness are so shattering, we must first look at the miracle that sits inside your head. The human brain is the most complex object we have ever discovered in the known universe. It is a cathedral of biology, built over millions of years of evolution. Inside your skull, there are roughly 86 billion neurons. 86 billion. To visualize that number, imagine that every neuron is a star. If you could turn your brain inside out and spread it across the sky, it would be a galaxy rivaling the size of many that we see through our telescopes. And these stars are not isolated. They are connected by trillions of synapses, tiny bridges across which the spark of thought travels. The number of possible connections in a single human brain exceeds the number of atoms in the known universe. It is a staggering, humbling thought. Right now, as you listen to this, storms of electricity are sweeping across that inner galaxy. Chemical tides are rising and falling. It is a symphony of information processing that makes our most advanced supercomputers look like stone tablets. For a long time, neuroscientists believed that this complexity was enough to explain everything. The prevailing theory, the one you probably learned in school, is called the computational model of the mind. It views the brain as a computer, In this view, the neurons are the hardware, the wires, and the chips. The electrical signals are the software, the code running the machine. If you build a computer complex enough, this theory says, consciousness will simply emerge, just as heat emerges from the movement of molecules, or wetness emerges from the collection of water droplets. It implies that you are a calculation, a very complex, very beautiful calculation, but a calculation nonetheless. This view is safe. It keeps the world orderly. It relies on what we call classical physics, the physics of Isaac Newton, the physics of billiard balls hitting each other, of gears turning gears, of cause and effect. In the classical world, everything is determined. If you know the position and speed of every particle in your brain, you should theoretically be able to predict every thought you will ever have. It suggests that your feeling of free will is an illusion, and that your consciousness is just the hum of the engine, a byproduct of the brain doing its work. But there is a problem, a deep, stubborn problem that refuses to go away. Philosophers call it the hard problem of consciousness. It was famously articulated by the philosopher David Chalmers, though the mystery has haunted thinkers for thousands of years. The problem is this. You can explain the wiring. You can explain how the eye turns light into electricity. You can explain how the brain processes that electricity to recognize the shape of a red rose. You can explain how the vocal cords move to say the word rose. We can map the circuits, measure the chemicals, and track the blood flow. But nowhere in that map, nowhere in those equations, can we find the smell of the rose. We cannot find the feeling of redness. We cannot find the experience. Why does the processing of information feel like anything at all? A thermostat processes information. It knows when the room is cold and turns on the heat. But we do not believe the thermostat feels cold. We do not believe the calculator feels proud when it solves an equation. Yet, you feel. You have an internal movie playing inside your head, rich with color, emotion, and sensation. This is the gap that classical physics cannot bridge. There is nothing in the laws of electricity, nothing in the laws of chemistry, that predicts the sudden emergence of a subjective inner world. You can pile up as many billiard balls as you want. You can make the gears as complex as you like. But at no point does it make sense for the machine to suddenly wake up and wonder why it exists. This failure of the classical model has led some brave scientists to look elsewhere. They have turned their gaze away from the large-scale biology of neurons and synapses and peered deeper into the microscopic realm where the rules of reality begin to warp and bend. They have turned to the strange, ghostly world of quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics is the physics of the very small. It describes the behavior of atoms, electrons, and photons. And it is a world that defies all common sense. In our everyday life, the classical world, things are defined. A cup is on the table or it is in the cupboard. It cannot be in both places at once. Time flows forward, 1 second after another. Causes always precede effects. But down in the quantum basement, these rules shatter. In the quantum realm, a particle can be in 2 places at the same time, a state known as superposition. 2 particles separated by billions of light years can be inextricably linked, so that changing one immediately changes the other faster than the speed of light, a phenomenon Albert Einstein called spooky action at a distance, which we now know as entanglement. In the quantum world, reality does not seem to be fixed until it is observed. It is a world of probabilities, of ghosts, of potentials waiting to become real. For decades, most scientists laughed at the idea that quantum mechanics had anything to do with the brain. They argued that the brain is too warm, too wet, and too noisy. Quantum states are incredibly delicate. They are like houses of cards. The slightest vibration, the slightest interaction with the environment causes them to collapse. This is called decoherence. To maintain a quantum state, physicists usually have to freeze atoms to temperatures near absolute zero and isolate them in vacuums deeper than space. The human brain, by contrast, is a warm, chaotic soup of water and salt, vibrating with thermal energy. It seemed impossible that delicate quantum effects could survive in such a hostile environment. The physicist Max Tegmark even calculated that quantum states in the brain would collapse in less than a trillionth of a second, far too fast to have any impact on our thoughts. But science is a living thing. It grows, it changes, and it often surprises us. In recent years, biology has begun to reveal secrets that suggest life is far more clever than we gave it credit for. We have discovered that plants use quantum mechanics to harvest sunlight with near-perfect efficiency. We have found that birds use quantum entanglement in their eyes to see the Earth's magnetic field and navigate across oceans. We have learned that enzymes, the worker molecules in your cells, use a process called quantum tunneling to teleport particles through solid barriers, speeding up chemical reactions by millions of times. If a blade of grass and a robin can harness the power of the quantum world, why not the human brain? Why would evolution, which clings to every advantage, ignore the most powerful computational system in the universe? This is where the terror and the beauty begin to intertwine. If the brain is indeed a quantum computer, if your consciousness is born not from the clunky firing of chemical synapses, but from the delicate dance of quantum wave functions collapsing and expanding, then you are not who you think you are. In the classical view, you are a local object defined by the boundaries of your body. In the quantum view, those boundaries are illusions. Quantum particles do not respect space. They do not respect time. If the seat of your consciousness is quantum, then the very core of your being operates according to rules that allow for connection across the entire cosmos. It suggests that at the deepest level, you're not separate from the universe. You are woven into its very fabric. Imagine, just for a moment, what this means. We often feel small. We look up at the night sky, at the band of the Milky Way stretching across the heavens, and we feel insignificant. We are fleeting sparks in an eternal night. But if the theories we are about to explore are true, that relationship is flipped. The same mysterious physics that governs the hearts of stars and the edge of black holes is active right now in the quiet center of your mind. You are not just an observer of the reality. You are a participant in its creation. The collapse of the quantum wave function, the moment where possibility becomes reality, might be happening billions of times a second inside your head, generating the flow of time and the sensation of existence. This journey we are embarking on will take us to the specific structures inside your neurons, tiny tubes called microtubules that some scientists believe are the antennas of consciousness, tuning into the fundamental frequency of the universe. We will explore the idea that memory is not stored in your brain cells, but in the geometry of space-time itself. We will confront the possibility that because quantum information cannot be destroyed, the core of your consciousness might be immune to death. These are not comfortable ideas. They strip away the safety of the mechanical worldview. They force us to confront the fact that we are something far more mysterious than a biological accident. They suggest that the universe is not a cold, dead place, but that it might be teeming with a fundamental, Protoconsciousness, a field of experience that has existed since the Big Bang. As we drift deeper into this subject in the chapters to come, I want you to hold on to a sense of gentle curiosity. The concepts we will discuss are heavy. They challenge the bedrock of our reality. They are terrifying in their scale, implying that you are vast beyond measure. But they are also deeply comforting, because if we are quantum beings, we are never truly alone. The isolation of the individual ego is a trick of the light. Beneath the surface, in the quiet quantum hum, everything is connected to everything else. The atoms in your hand are entangled with atoms in distant galaxies. The thoughts in your mind might ripple through the fabric of space in ways we are only just beginning to understand. So, as the night deepens around you and the silence of the room presses in, remember that the silence is not empty. It is full of potential. It is full of waves waiting to collapse. It is full of a universe that has woken up and is looking at itself through your eyes. We are about to step through the looking glass. We are about to leave the safe, solid world of the classical behind and float into the strange, shimmering ocean of the quantum mind. It is a place where intuition fails, but where a deeper kind of knowing begins. Rest your mind now. Let the questions float without demanding answers. The journey is just beginning, and the destination is more wonderful and more terrifying than you can imagine. Now that we have stepped away from the safe, solid shores of the classical world, let us drift deeper into the interior of your own biology. Imagine for a moment that we can shrink down smaller than a grain of sand, smaller than a cell, shrinking until the chaotic noise of the outside world fades into a distant, rhythmic hum. We are entering the inner sanctum of a single neuron in your brain. It is a dark, warm, and crowded place, filled with water and proteins jostling against each other in a ceaseless, chaotic dance. To the eyes of traditional biology, this place looks messy. It looks like a busy city street in the middle of a rainstorm. It seems like the absolute last place in the universe where you would find the delicate, crystalline silence required for quantum magic to occur. Remember, quantum states are shy. They usually crumble at the slightest touch of heat or vibration. And yet, here we are, inside the wet, feverish engine of life, looking for a ghost. For years, this environment was the primary argument against quantum consciousness. Critics, quite reasonably, pointed to the heat. They pointed to the noise. They said that trying to build a quantum computer inside a living brain would be like trying to build a snowman in the middle of a blast furnace. It simply should not work. The entropy, the disorder, is too high. The delicate superposition where a particle can be in two states at once would be knocked out of existence instantly by the random motion of water molecules. This argument held the high ground for decades. It allowed us to keep our safe, mechanical view of the mind. It allowed us to believe that consciousness was just a complex game of telephone played by neurons passing chemical notes to one another. But then, scientists began to look closer at the architecture of the cell itself. They began to notice something that had been dismissed as mere scaffolding, something that looks suspiciously like a machine designed to protect the very silence we are looking for. If you look inside a neuron, you will find a vast network of tiny tube-like structures called microtubules. For a long time, biologists thought these were just the skeleton of the cell, the structural beams and girders that held the neuron's shape, much like the steel frame holds up a skyscraper. They are rigid, hollow cylinders, incredibly small, only 25 nanometers across. But when we looked closer with the eyes of physicists, and mathematicians, these simple structural beams began to reveal a startling complexity. They are not just dumb pipes. They are built from a protein called tubulin, arranged in a perfect, beautiful lattice. The geometry is precise, almost sacred. The tubulin proteins spiral around the hollow center of the tube in patterns that follow the Fibonacci sequence, the same mathematical ratio found in the spiral of a galaxy, the arrangement of sunflower seeds, and the curve of a nautilus shell. Why would nature put such precise mathematical beauty into a simple structural beam? Why build a skeleton out of crystal? Enter Sir Roger Penrose, a mathematical physicist who spent his life studying the geometry of black holes and the fabric of the universe, and Stuart Hameroff, an anesthesiologist who spent his life putting people to sleep and wondering where their consciousness went. Together, they proposed a theory that was initially ridiculed, then ignored, and is now, slowly, terrifyingly, coming back into the light. They suggested that these microtubules are not just skeletons. They are quantum computers. They proposed that the hollow interiors of these tubes, shielded by the rigid lattice of the tubulin proteins, might provide a momentary quiet zone, a biological sanctuary where the chaos of the wet brain is held at bay just long enough for quantum states to exist. Imagine the microtubule as a flute. The noise of the brain is the wind blowing outside, chaotic and rough. But inside the flute, the air is shielded, allowing it to resonate, to vibrate in a pure, coherent tone. Penrose and Hameroff suggested that the tubulin proteins that make up the walls of the tube can flip back and forth between two different shapes, acting like the bits in a computer, zeros and ones. But because they are small enough to be governed by quantum rules, they can also be in both shapes at the same time. They can be 0 and 1 simultaneously. And because these proteins are arranged in a perfect crystal lattice, they can become entangled with their neighbors. A quantum state could spread like a ripple down the length of the microtubule, thousands of proteins vibrating in perfect unison, locked in a single, coherent quantum thought. This is the Orchestrated Objective Reduction Theory, or ORC-OR. It is a mouthful of a name, but the image it paints is hauntingly beautiful. It suggests that inside every one of your neurons there are thousands of these quantum flutes, humming in silence. When the quantum state grows large enough, when the superposition becomes too heavy for the universe to sustain, it collapses. It snaps into a single, definite state. And that snap, that moment of collapse, is a moment of conscious experience, a tiny spark of now. According to this theory, your consciousness is not a continuous stream, like water flowing from a tap. It is a series of discrete quantum events occurring roughly 40 times a second, stitching together so fast that it creates the illusion of continuity. You are like a movie, a series of still frames played so quickly that they look like motion. But the frames are not made of celluloid. They are made of the collapse of quantum geometry inside the deepest structures of your cells. If this is true, the implications for what you are become significantly stranger. It means that the brain is not computing in the way a laptop computes. A laptop moves electrons around to simulate information, but a quantum computer manipulates the fundamental fabric of reality to arrive at an answer. If your microtubules are processing information in quantum superposition, they are essentially testing multiple possibilities of reality simultaneously. When you are deciding whether to turn left or right, or searching for a forgotten name, your brain might be literally exploring all possible futures at once in a ghostly superposition until the wave function collapses and the choice is made. You are a multiverse machine, pruning the branches of probability with every thought you think. But here is where the terror begins to creep back in. If consciousness resides in these quantum collapses, we have to ask, what causes the collapse? In standard quantum mechanics, we often say the observer causes the collapse. But who observes the observer? Penrose went deeper. He suggested that the collapse is not caused by a person looking at it, but by the instability of space-time itself. He argued that gravity, the force that holds planets in orbit, plays a role in the quantum world. When a particle is in two places at once, it essentially creates two tiny, separate blisters in the fabric of space-time. Nature does not like this separation. It is unstable. Eventually, the difference becomes too great, and space-time snaps back into a single shape. This snap is the objective reduction. This connects your mind directly to the fundamental architecture of the universe. It implies that a moment of consciousness is a ripple in the geometry of space-time. Think about that for a long, slow moment. Your feeling of happiness, your sensation of the color blue, your memory of your mother's face. These are not just chemical reactions confined to a skull. They are intrinsic events in the fabric of the cosmos, indistinguishable from the physics that governs black holes and galaxies. You are not just in the universe. You are the universe organizing itself into a subjective experience. The distinction between out there and in here vanishes. The cold, vast emptiness of space and the warm, intimate privacy of your mind are made of the exact same stuff, obeying the exact same geometry. This effectively destroys the idea of the isolated individual. We are taught to believe that we are separate entities, lonely egos trapped in bags of skin. But if the seat of consciousness is a quantum process interacting with the fundamental level of space-time, then we are rooted in a common field. We are like waves on the surface of a single, infinite ocean. The wave looks separate. It has a height, a shape, a location. But it is just the ocean behaving in a certain way. When the wave crashes, the water remains. If our consciousness is a quantum wave function collapsing in the geometry of the universe, then we are expressions of something far older and far vast than our biological bodies. There is experimental evidence beginning to mount that supports this wild, terrifying vision. For years, the idea of quantum effects in microtubules was pure theory. But recently, scientists have begun to detect quantum resonances in tubulin proteins. They have observed light-harvesting molecules in plants maintaining quantum coherence for surprisingly long times at room temperature. The warm, wet, and noisy argument is slowly crumbling. We are realizing that biology has had 4 billion years to solve the engineering problems that human physicists are just beginning to understand. Life has found a way to create quiet spaces in the noise, to build cathedrals of silence where the quantum voice can be heard. There is another aspect to microtubules that adds a layer of ancient mystery to this story. These structures are not unique to human brains. They are found in the cells of every plant, every animal, and every single-celled organism on Earth. Paramecia, tiny single-celled creatures that swim in pond water, have no neurons. They have no synapses. They have no brain. Yet they can swim, hunt, find mates, avoid predators, and learn from their environment. How do they do this without a neural network? They do it with their cytoskeleton. They do it with microtubules. If microtubules are the seat of protoconsciousness, then the spark of experience did not flicker into existence when humans evolved, or even when animals evolved. It might go all the way back to the very beginning of life. It suggests that a glimmer of feeling, a tiny quantum spark of being has been present in every living thing for billions of years. The universe has been waking up, slowly, cell by cell, tube by tube, since the primordial soup. This realization forces a profound humility upon us. We are not the lonely masters of consciousness. We are part of a continuum. The feeling you have of being you is just a highly amplified, highly orchestrated version of the same song that is being sung by the trees outside your window and the bacteria in the soil. We are all playing the same quantum instrument. The scale of this connection is what makes it terrifying. It is too big to hold in a human mind. It dissolves the boundaries of the self. If you are connected to the fundamental geometry of the universe, where do you stop and where does the cosmos begin? As we lie here in the dark, contemplating the crystals inside our cells, we must also confront the mechanism of anesthesia. It is one of the great medical mysteries. We have been putting people to sleep for surgery for over 100 years, yet we still do not fully understand how it works. We know that certain gases turn off consciousness, leaving the brain's electrical activity largely intact. You can still hear. The signals still go to your brain, but you are not there to receive them. The lights are on, but nobody is home. Hameroff and others have found that anesthetic gases work by binding specifically to microtubules. They gum up the works. They dampen the vibrations of the tubulin proteins. They stop the quantum music. When the quantum state cannot form, the collapse cannot happen, and consciousness evaporates. The biological machine keeps running. The heart beats, the lungs breathe, the neurons fire. But the ghost is gone. This strongly suggests that the quantum theory is on the right track. It tells us that consciousness is not the electricity. It is the music played by the crystal flute. Stop the vibration, and the music ends, even if the flute is still there. This implies that your existence is a delicate, shimmering resonance. You are a standing wave in the quantum field, and like any wave, you are sensitive to interference. But it also implies something more hopeful. If consciousness is a fundamental property of space-time geometry, accessed by the brain rather than created by it, then perhaps the brain is more like a receiver than a generator. A radio catches music from the air. If you smash the radio, the music stops playing, but the radio waves do not disappear. They are still there, in the field. If the brain is a quantum receiver tuning into the fundamental frequency of the universe, what happens when the receiver breaks? Does the signal stop, or does it simply return to the field? We are walking on the edge of science here, peering into the fog of the unknown. But the shapes looming in that fog are massive. They change the definition of life. They change the definition of death. They suggest that the universe is not made of dead matter and empty space, but that it is saturated with the potential for experience. It suggests that the silence of the cosmos is not an absence of sound, but a presence of waiting. A waiting for the right structure, the right geometry, to catch the hum and turn it into a thought. As you let these ideas settle into the quiet spaces of your mind, feel the weight of your own body. Feel the stillness of your hands. Inside those hands, inside the cells of your skin and the nerves of your fingers, trillions of microtubules are vibrating. They are locking and unlocking the geometry of space-time, anchoring you to the here and now. You are a vast, ancient, quantum event. You are a symphony of collapsing waves. The terror of this is the terror of the sublime, the feeling of standing on the edge of a cliff and realizing that the drop goes on forever. But there is safety in that drop too, because you are not falling into nothingness. You are falling into the fundamental fabric of everything that is. In the next chapter, we will go even further. We will ask what this quantum connection means for the flow of time itself. We will explore the idea that the past might not be gone and the future might already exist, waiting for your mind to crystallize it into reality. We will see how quantum consciousness might allow for connections that defy the linear march of the clock. But for now, let the crystals in your mind hum their quiet song. Let the vibrations soothe you. You are a child of the universe, built of its deepest mysteries, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that is separate from you. If you listen closely to the silence of the room you're in right now, underneath the beating of your heart and the rhythm of your breath, you might hear the phantom sound that governs our entire lives. It is the ticking of the clock. It is the relentless, steady drumbeat that drives us forward second by second from the cradle to the grave. We are obsessed with time. We measure it, we save it, we waste it, and we fear running out of it. We feel time as a river that carries us helplessly downstream, washing away our memories and rushing us toward a waterfall we cannot see. We believe that the past is a locked room, a place of dust and ghosts that is forever closed to us. We believe that the future is a blank page, waiting to be written. And we believe that the present, this fleeting, fragile moment of now, is the only thing that is truly real. But what if I told you that this entire sensation, the flow, the past, the future, is a lie? What if the new theories of quantum consciousness suggest that your mind does not just move through time, but actually constructs it? What if the choices you make right now, in this quiet moment, are rippling backward to reshape your own history? Tonight, we are going to dismantle the clock. We are going to look at one of the most terrifying and beautiful paradoxes in all of physics, the problem of time. In our classical understanding, the world of Isaac Newton and our everyday intuition, time is a container. It is an absolute empty stage upon which the drama of the universe plays out. It flows at the same speed for everyone, everywhere. But Albert Einstein shattered this safe, rigid container over 100 years ago. He showed us that time is not a stage, it is a landscape. He revealed that time is woven together with space into a single, four-dimensional fabric called space-time. In Einstein's view, which is known as the block universe, the past, the present, and the future all exist simultaneously. Imagine a loaf of bread. Each slice of the bread is a moment in time. The dinosaurs are on one slice. The building of the pyramids is on another. Your birth is on another. And your death is on yet another. In the block universe, the whole loaf exists at once. The slice containing your future is just as real, just as solid, and just as fixed as the slice containing your past. This is a chilling thought. It implies that the flow of time is an illusion created by our consciousness crawling through the block like an ant crawling across a rug. It implies that everything that will happen to you has, in a sense, already happened. The tears you will cry 10 years from now are already frozen in the crystal of space-time. The joy you will feel is already waiting there, fixed and unchangeable. In this view, you are a passenger in a vehicle with no steering wheel, watching a movie that has already been filmed. It is a universe of total determinism, a clockwork cosmos where free will is nothing more than a comforting fairy tale we tell ourselves to feel in control. But remember the quantum flaw. Remember the crack in the crystal. When we bring quantum mechanics into this frozen cathedral of space-time, the ice begins to crack. The quantum world refuses to be pinned down. As we discussed, a quantum particle does not have a single definite location or a single definite speed until it is observed. It exists as a cloud of probabilities, a haze of maybes. If the fundamental building blocks of reality are not fixed until they are observed, then the future cannot be a frozen slice of bread. It must be a fluid, shifting ocean of possibilities. And here is where it gets truly strange. If the quantum world is timeless, then the act of observation might not just crystallize the present. It might also crystallize the past. There is a famous experiment that keeps physicists awake at night. It was proposed by the legendary physicist John Archibald Wheeler, a man who was never afraid to ask the kind of deep, simple questions that break reality. It is called the delayed choice experiment. To understand it, we have to imagine a journey on a cosmic scale. Imagine a distant star, a quasar, burning with the light of 1 trillion suns, sitting billions of light years away from Earth. A single photon, a tiny packet of light, leaves that star. This photon begins a lonely journey across the great dark void of the universe. It travels for millions of years, passing through the silence of intergalactic space. It travels while galaxies collide and merge. It travels while stars are born and die. It travels while life on Earth evolves from slime to dinosaurs, to the mammal holding the smartphone. On its way to Earth, this photon encounters a massive galaxy. The gravity of this galaxy acts like a lens, bending the fabric of space. The photon has to go around the galaxy to reach us. It can go left, or it can go right. According to quantum mechanics, until it is observed, the photon does not choose. It goes both left and right simultaneously. It exists in a superposition of taking both paths. The ghost of the photon splits, hugs both sides of the galaxy, and continues its journey toward Earth, recombining only when it arrives. Now, here is the twist. On Earth, an astronomer points a telescope at that distant quasar. He can choose to measure the photon in one of two ways. He can choose to know which path the photon took, left or right. Or he can choose to measure the interference pattern, which would show that the photon took both paths at once, acting like a wave. The terrifying part is this. The astronomer makes this choice now, billions of years after the photon left the star and billions of years after it passed the galaxy. If the astronomer chooses to measure which path, the photon acts as if it always traveled as a particle along one single route. If the astronomer chooses to measure the wave pattern, the photon acts as if it always traveled as a wave along both routes. The choice made in the present moment seems to reach back across billions of years of time and force the photon to have made a specific decision when it passed that galaxy. The act of observation now determines the history of the particle then. This suggests a form of retrocausality, the present influencing the past. Wheeler called this the participatory universe. It suggests that the universe does not fully exist until it is observed. It implies that by looking at the stars, by measuring the cosmos, we are not just discovering what happened. We are, in a very real sense, creating the history of the universe. We are building the past. Now bring this back to your own mind. Bring it back to the quiet room and the beating heart. If your consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, if your microtubules are collapsing wave functions 40 times a second, are you doing the same thing? Are you, moment by moment, not just choosing your future, but solidifying your past? This idea is terrifying because it dissolves the solid ground beneath our feet. We like to think of the past as a foundation, a rock we stand on. We say, I am this way, because this happened to me. I am sad because I lost something. We treat the past as a cause and the present as an effect. But the quantum view suggests a loop. It suggests that the observer is the only true reality, and that the timeline is a story we construct to explain the observation. It implies that you are not a victim of your history. You are the author of it. The past is not a dead weight dragging you down. It is a quantum library of infinite drafts, and your current state of mind determines which draft becomes the official history. This connects deeply with how we experience memory. Neuroscience tells us that every time you remember an event, you're not pulling a file from a cabinet. You are physically reconstructing the memory in your brain. You are rebuilding the neural pathways. You are changing it. In a quantum sense, maybe you are doing more than just changing a neural pathway. Maybe you are reaching back into the quantum haze of the past and making a delayed choice. Maybe the act of forgiveness, for example, is a form of quantum time travel. When you forgive a past hurt, you are not just changing your feeling about the event. You are effectively collapsing the wave function of your history into a state where that event no longer carries the momentum of pain. You are changing the energetic shape of your own timeline. The terror here is the weight of responsibility. It means there are no excuses. It means you cannot blame the clock. You are the clock. But the comfort is equally vast. If time is an illusion constructed by consciousness, then the fear of running out of time is also, in a sense, a misunderstanding. We fear death because we see it as the end of our time. We see it as falling off the edge of the conveyor belt. But if consciousness is the fundamental thing, the thing that creates the time, then it cannot be destroyed by time. The dreamer is not destroyed when the dream ends. They simply wake up. Let us consider the now. In the classical world, now is a vanishingly thin slice of nothing, gone before you can even say the word. But in the quantum view, the now is the only place where the power exists. It is the cutting edge of reality. It is the place where the wave collapses into the particle. It is the place where the vague, ghostly potential of the multiverse snaps into the concrete reality of experience. This means that your power is always, entirely, right here. It is not in the plans you make for 10 years from now. It is not in the regrets of 10 years ago. It is in the microscopic quantum collapse happening in this exact breath. There is a concept in physics called the arrow of time. Why does time only flow one way? Why do teacups shatter but never unshatter? Why do we remember the past but not the future? The second law of thermodynamics says that entropy, or disorder, always increases. The universe moves from order to chaos. But life and consciousness seems to fight this arrow. Life takes chaos and builds order. It takes scattered atoms and builds a flower. It takes random signals and builds a symphony. Some physicists speculate that consciousness might actually be moving backward through time, or at least operating outside the normal flow of entropy. If your mind is quantum, it might be receiving information from the future just as easily as it retains information from the past. Have you ever had a moment of déjà vu, or a sudden intuition that turned out to be correct? A feeling that you knew who was calling before the phone rang? We usually dismiss these as coincidences, but in a universe where time is not linear, where particles can be entangled across time, where the future can influence the past, these anomalies might be glimpses of the true nature of your mind. They might be moments where your quantum brain is remembering the future. If the block universe exists, as a field of probabilities. Perhaps your consciousness is sensing the terrain ahead, feeling the ripples of events that have not yet crystallized. This perspective transforms the terrifying vastness of eternity into something intimate. We are taught that we are brief candles burning for a moment in an infinite dark. But if time is a construct of consciousness, then eternity is not a long time. Eternity is just the depth of the now. It is the vertical dimension of the moment. When you sink into a state of deep focus, or love, or meditation, and time seems to disappear, maybe it is not a trick of the mind. Maybe you are touching the truth. Maybe you are stepping out of the illusion of the flowing river and standing on the bank, watching the water, but not being swept away by it. As we go deeper into this night, consider the possibility that your life is not a straight line. Consider that it might be a painting, where every stroke of the brush exists at once, contributing to the whole image. You're painting it right now. And because of the strange, loopy nature of quantum time, the stroke you paint now can change the color of the stroke you painted yesterday. The healing you do today ripples backward to comfort the child you once were. The wisdom you gain tomorrow is already whispering to you today. The silence around you is not empty time waiting to be filled. It is the raw material of existence. The quantum field is pulsing with potential pasts and potential futures, all hovering in a state of superposition, waiting for you, the observer, to look at them, waiting for you to choose. It is a terrifying responsibility to be the creator of your own time. It is easier to be a victim of the clock. It is easier to say, I ran out of time. But the quantum universe does not let us off the hook so easily. It tells us that time is made of us. So, take a moment to feel the now. Really feel it. It is not a bridge between past and future. It is the entire engine. It is the place where the universe is being born. In the next chapter, we will expand this connection even further. We have looked at the crystal inside the cell and the illusion of the clock. Next, we will look at the invisible threads that bind you to other people, to other minds, and perhaps to the stars themselves. We will explore the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, the spooky action at a distance, and ask if our minds are ever truly separate from one another. We will ask if love is just an emotion, or if it is a force of physics as real as gravity. But, for now, rest in the timeless moment. The clock on the wall is just a machine counting gears. You are the ghost in the machine, and you are timeless. We live our lives in a bubble of separation. We walk around in our own bodies, looking out of our own eyes, convinced that there is a rigid boundary where I ends and you begins. We believe that our thoughts are private, locked away in the vault of our skulls. We believe that the space between us, the air, the walls, the miles of empty road, is a barrier that keeps us apart. This sense of separation is the foundation of our loneliness. It is why we can feel isolated even in a crowded room. It is why we feel the ache of distance when a loved one is far away. We view the universe as a collection of lonely islands, drifting in a dark sea, occasionally shouting across the void, but never truly touching. But what if this feeling of separation is the single greatest illusion of our existence? What if the physics of the quantum world tells a story so radically different, so intimately terrifying, that it shatters the very concept of distance? Tonight, we are going to explore the phenomenon that Albert Einstein called spooky action at a distance. It is a concept that bothered him so much, he went to his grave trying to disprove it. It is the concept of quantum entanglement. And if the theories of quantum consciousness we have been discussing are correct, this phenomenon suggests that the walls between your mind and the rest of the universe are not walls at all. They are more like veils, thin and permeable, or perhaps they do not exist in any meaningful way. It suggests that at the deepest, most fundamental level of reality, there is no such thing as two. There is only a vast, shimmering one stretching across the cosmos, binding you to the person sitting next to you and to the stars burning at the edge of time. To understand entanglement, we have to let go of our common sense. In our everyday world, if I have a red ball and a blue ball, and I put them in separate boxes and send one to Tokyo and one to New York, changing the ball in Tokyo does not magically change the ball in New York. They are separate objects. They have their own histories. But in the quantum world, particles like electrons or photons can become linked in a way that defies this logic. They can be created together in a single event, sharing a quantum state. They become entangled. When this happens, they are no longer two separate particles. They are a single mathematical entity that just happens to be in two places at once. Imagine two entangled coins. You take one coin, and your friend takes the other. You travel to the opposite ends of the galaxy. You are separated by 100,000 light years. According to the laws of quantum mechanics, until you look at your coin, it is neither heads nor tails. It is spinning in a blur of probability, a superposition of both states. But the moment you catch your coin and look at it, the moment you force it to decide, say it lands on heads, the coin on the other side of the galaxy instantaneously becomes tails. It does not matter that light would take 100,000 years to travel between you. The connection is immediate, faster than light, faster than time. It is as if the two coins know what the other is doing, or rather, as if the space between them does not exist. For decades, physicists tried to find a loophole. They hoped there were hidden variables, secret instructions inside the particles that told them what to do, so that no faster-than-light communication was needed. They wanted to save the local, sensible universe. But in the 1960s, a physicist named John Bell calculated a way to test this, and in the 1980s, experiments by Alain Aspect and others proved it. Einstein was wrong. The universe really is spooky. Non-locality is real. Two particles separated by the width of the universe can be part of the same whole. If you tickle one, the other laughs. Now, bring this terrifying intimacy back into the wet, warm, biological machine of your brain. We know that the atoms in your body were not created there. They were forged in the hearts of dying stars billions of years ago. They have drifted through space, been recycled through nebulas, and passed through countless other forms before assembling into you. In that long, violent history, countless interactions have occurred. Electrons have smashed into electrons. Photons have been absorbed and re-emitted. If entanglement is a fundamental feature of matter, and we know it is, then it stands to reason that the particles making up your brain are entangled with particles scattered throughout the universe. You are a walking cloud of quantum connections. But let us go deeper. If consciousness is a quantum phenomenon generated by the collapse of wave functions in your microtubules, then your mind itself might be entangled. This leads us to a staggering possibility. The privacy of your mind might be an illusion. If the quantum fields that generate your thoughts are entangled with the fields generating another person's thoughts, then the boundary between my mind and your mind becomes blurry. We have all experienced moments of sudden, inexplicable connection. You think of a friend you haven't seen in years, and they call you a minute later. You feel a sudden pang of anxiety, only to find out a loved one was in trouble. We usually dismiss these as coincidence, or just imagination. But in a universe of quantum entanglement, these might be the macroscopic echoes of a microscopic truth. The physicist Erwin Schrödinger, one of the fathers of quantum mechanics, was deeply influenced by Eastern philosophy. He famously proposed that the number of minds in the universe is one. He believed that the separation we feel is a deception of perspective, like looking at a prism and thinking the different colors of light are different things, when they are all just aspects of the same white beam. Entanglement provides the physical mechanism for this unity. It suggests that underneath the surface noise of our individual personalities, our memories, and our egos, there is a bedrock of quantum connectedness where we are all the same substance. This idea is terrifying because it forces us to confront the reality of our influence. If we are entangled, then every thought you think, every emotion you feel, sends a ripple through the quantum fabric. You cannot hide your anger, your fear, or your love. It is not contained within your skull. It is broadcasting. When you hurt another person, you are, in a very literal, physical sense, hurting a part of yourself. When you judge someone, you are judging a different facet of the same quantum diamond. The concept of the other dissolves. There are no strangers in a quantum universe. There are only other parts of the deep self that we have not yet recognized. Let us look at empathy through this lens. We usually think of empathy as a psychological skill, the ability to imagine what someone else is feeling. But what if empathy is actually physics? What if, when you truly connect with someone, when you feel their pain in your own chest, you're momentarily becoming entangled with them? Maybe the resonance of your microtubules is locking into phase with theirs. Maybe love is not just a chemical reaction to oxytocin and dopamine, but a state of high-level quantum entanglement, where two systems become so deeply linked that they function as one. This would explain why the loss of a loved one feels like a physical amputation. It is not just a metaphor. If you are entangled, then a part of your own quantum structure has been torn away. This perspective also casts a strange light on the loneliness we started with. If we are fundamentally connected, why do we feel so alone? Perhaps the illusion of separation is necessary. If we felt the entirety of the cosmic web all the time, the noise would be deafening. We would be overwhelmed by the collective joy and sorrow of billions of beings. The brain might be designed not to produce consciousness, but to filter it, to reduce the roaring, infinite signal of the quantum one down to a manageable, private trickle of me. We are wearing blinders, blocking out the vastness so we can focus on the small task of being human. But the connection is always there, waiting in the background, humming in the silence. Consider the air in the room around you right now. It is filled with radio waves, Wi-Fi signals, cellular data. You cannot see them or feel them, but they are there, carrying information from all over the world. Your phone can pick them up because it is tuned to the right frequency. Your brain might be similar. In moments of deep meditation, or in the strange borderlands of sleep, or in moments of intense emotional crisis, the filter might slip. The tuning might drift, and suddenly you feel it, the terrifying, beautiful weight of the everything, the sense that you are not a small object in a big world, but that the big world is somehow inside you. This leads us to an even wilder speculation. If entanglement ignores time, remember the delayed choice experiment, then you might be entangled with minds in the past and minds in the future. The inspiration that strikes you out of nowhere might be a message from your future self, entangled across time, guiding you toward the path you need to take. The sudden chill of fear might be a resonance with a danger that hasn't happened yet. We are weaving a tapestry across time, pulling threads from tomorrow to stitch into today. Science is just beginning to scratch the surface of macroscopic entanglement. We have managed to entangle small diamonds, vibrating membranes, and clouds of gas. We are building quantum computers that rely on this principle. But nature has had billions of years to perfect it. It is the height of arrogance to assume that we are the first to discover the network. The network has likely been here all along. The forest uses it. Trees communicate through fungal networks that some biologists have likened to neural connections. Animals use it, and you are using it right now as you process these words. The meaning you derive from this sentence is a collapse of a wave function that is entangled with the mind of the writer and with every other person who has ever read or will ever read this script. We are sharing a quantum thought. This removal of boundaries is the source of the terror I promised you. We cling to our privacy. We want to believe that we have a secret place inside where no one can go. We want to believe that our darkness is ours alone. But quantum mechanics says, no, the universe is a house with glass walls. Everything is transparent to the quantum field. You are naked before the cosmos. But in that nakedness, there is a profound safety. Because if you cannot be separate, you cannot be abandoned. You cannot be lost. You are held in a web of relation that is stronger than gravity, stronger than time, and stronger than death. As you lie there, feel the edges of your body, feel where your skin touches the sheets. We are taught that the skin is a boundary, a wall that keeps the world out. But try to imagine it as a bridge. The atoms in your skin are dancing with the atoms in the air. The heat of your body is radiating out, entangling you with the room. The gravity of your mass is pulling on the most distant stars. There is no hard line. You fade out into the universe, and the universe fades into you. You are continuous. The silence of the night is not empty. It is the hum of the connection. It is the sound of the great, entangled web breathing. When you feel lonely, remember that it is just a trick of the biology, a necessary illusion to let you play the game of being an individual. But beneath the game, in the deep quantum basement, you are holding hands with everything that exists. You are holding hands with the dinosaurs. You are holding hands with the stars. You are holding hands with the people you have loved and lost. In the next chapter, we are going to push this lack of boundaries to its ultimate, logic-breaking conclusion. If the universe is a web of probabilities, and if observation collapses those probabilities into reality, what happens when there are different possible outcomes? We are going to explore the theory of the many worlds. We will ask if there are infinite versions of you, living out every choice you didn't make. We will ask if, in some other branch of reality, the mistakes of your past never happened. We are going to step into the multiverse, where everything that can happen does happen. But for now, rest in the connection. Feel the invisible threads. You are not a solitary spark. You are the fire itself. We spend our lives haunted by ghosts, but not the kind that rattle chains in old castles or float through graveyards in white sheets. The ghosts that haunt us are far more subtle and far more painful. They are the ghosts of the lives we did not lead. They are the shadows of the choices we did not make. You lie in bed at night, and you wonder what would have happened if you had taken that job in another city. You wonder what would have happened if you had kissed that person 20 years ago, or if you had turned left instead of right on a rainy Tuesday. We carry these unlived lives like heavy stones in our pockets. We feel the ache of lost potential, the stinging bite of regret. We look at the one singular life we are living, and it often feels small, fragile, and arbitrary. We think of reality as a single, narrow path that we must walk with care, because one false step means falling off the edge into oblivion. But what if I told you that this anxiety is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of the way the universe works? What if physics suggests that there are no lost paths? What if the road not taken was, in fact, taken? Tonight, we are going to walk into the Hall of Mirrors. We are going to explore the wildest, most controversial, and perhaps the most terrifying interpretation of quantum mechanics ever proposed, the many worlds theory. If the ideas of quantum consciousness we have discussed so far are the lock, then this theory is the key that opens the door to a reality so vast that the human mind can barely comprehend it without snapping. It suggests that the universe is not a single story, but an infinite library of stories, and you are the protagonist in every single volume. To understand this, we have to go back to the central mystery we have been circling, the collapse of the wave function. Remember, in the standard view, the Copenhagen interpretation, a particle exists in a cloud of possibilities until it is observed, at which point it snaps into one definite state. The other possibilities simply vanish. They are deleted from existence. This view is comfortable because it leaves us with one reality. But in 1957, a brilliant young physicist named Hugh Everett III looked at the mathematics and asked a simple, dangerous question. What if the wave function never collapses? Everett argued that the mathematics of quantum mechanics does not show any mechanism for the collapse. The equations suggest that the wave function just keeps evolving, smooth and continuous. He proposed that when a particle has two possible states, say, spinning up or spinning down, and you measure it, the universe does not choose one and delete the other. Instead, the universe splits. In one branch of reality, you see the particle spinning up. In another, equally real branch of reality, a version of you sees the particle spinning down. The wave function includes both outcomes. The universe literally bifurcates to accommodate every single possibility. This idea was so radical, so bizarre, that Everett was largely ignored and ridiculed by the scientific establishment of his time. He left theoretical physics in despair and went to work for the defense industry, dying young, never fully knowing that his idea would eventually become one of the dominant theories in modern cosmology. Now, apply this to the quantum computer inside your brain. If your consciousness is generated by the collapse, or rather, the branching of quantum states in your microtubules, and if these events are happening billions of times a second, then you're not just walking a path, you're generating a tree. Every time your brain processes a decision, every time a neuron fires or doesn't fire, the universe splits. In this moment, right now, there is a version of you who stopped reading this text 2 paragraphs ago. There is a version of you who decided to go to sleep. There is a version of you who stood up to get a glass of water. And all of them are just as real, just as conscious, and just as you as the one reading these words. They exist in a dimension that is perpendicular to the one you can see, separated by the screen of decoherence, unable to communicate, yet sharing the same root. This is the terrifying scale of the multiverse. It means that everything that can happen does happen. There are no missed opportunities. There are only different branches. In some branch of the great quantum tree, you married your high school sweetheart. In another, you became a musician. In another, you died in a car accident at the age of 5. In another, you are the president. The universe is not wasteful. It does not discard potential. It mines every single vein of possibility to its absolute end. This concept changes the definition of you. You are not a single person. You are a choir. You are a vast, multifaceted organism stretching across the landscape of probability. The you that you experience right now is just one facet of a diamond that is infinite in complexity. But here is where the theory shifts from merely strange to deeply, existentially terrifying. It leads to a thought experiment known as quantum suicide or quantum immortality. Imagine a physicist sitting in a room with a device that measures the spin of a quantum particle. If the particle spins up, the device clicks. If the particle spins down, the device releases a lethal gas that kills the physicist instantly. According to many worlds, every time the experiment runs, the universe splits. In one branch, the gas is released, and the physicist dies. In the other branch, the device clicks, and the physicist lives. Now, think about this from the perspective of the physicist. You cannot experience a branch where you are dead. Consciousness, by definition, requires a living brain. Therefore, from your own first-person perspective, you will never find yourself in the branch where the gas is released. You will always, inevitably, find yourself in the branch where the particles spun up. You could run the experiment 100 times. In the vast majority of universes, you are dead. But in the one thin thread of reality that you are capable of experiencing, you survive. You survive again and again and again against all odds. This implies something haunting about our own lives. It suggests that from your own subjective viewpoint, you might be unable to die. You might face illness, accidents, and age. But at every quantum juncture where death is a possibility, the universe splits, and your consciousness continues down the path, however improbable, where you survive. You might be leaving behind a trail of tragedies in other universes, worlds where your loved ones are grieving your funeral. But you, the observer, keep walking the narrow tightrope of existence. It suggests that your consciousness is a lantern that always follows the path of the living, no matter how dark or strange that path becomes. This is not immortality in the sense of living forever in a healthy body. It is a forced continuity of experience. It is the terrifying possibility that the lights never truly go out. They just shift to a new room. Let that sink in. The silence of the night takes on a new weight. We usually fear that death is the end, a sudden cut to black. But the quantum view offers a different fear, the fear of the endless continuation. It suggests that we are trapped in existence, bound to the ride until the very end of entropy itself. But there is also a profound beauty in this terror. It means that you are resilient beyond measure. It means that the universe is conspiring in at least one branch to keep you part of the story. It recontextualizes our failures. Did you fail at something today? In another branch, you succeeded. Did you make a mistake? In another branch, you did it perfectly. You do not need to carry the weight of what if, because the what if is real. It is happening. You are just not looking at it. This destroys the ego's need to be special, to be the best version of yourself. There is no best version. There is only the ensemble, the symphony of all possible yous. Some are suffering, some are rejoicing, some are evil, some are saints. but they are all valid expressions of the fundamental equation that defines your existence. This realization can be a source of immense peace. It allows you to let go. You do not have to cling so tightly to this specific storyline, terrified of messing it up. You are playing out every storyline. You are exploring the entire landscape of your potential. This specific life, with its specific heartbreaks and specific joys, is just one movement in an infinite composition. Consider the people you love. In the many worlds view, their existence is just as multiplied as yours. There are worlds where you and your partner never met. There are worlds where you broke up, but there are also worlds where you are closer than you can imagine. There are worlds where the ones you have lost are still sitting beside you, holding your hand. Those worlds are not metaphorical heavens. They are physical realities, separated from you by a phase shift in the quantum wave function. They are just a millimeter away in a direction you cannot point to. The separation between you and the versions of your loved ones in those other branches is not a separation of distance, but of probability. They are there. The laughter is there. The love is there. It is all preserved in the amber of the multiverse. This theory also changes how we view the nature of accidents and luck. If you narrowly escape a car accident, we usually say, "I was lucky." But in the many worlds view, there was no luck involved. There was a branch where the car hit you, and a branch where it missed. You, the conscious observer, naturally find yourself in the branch where you can still observe. You are not lucky. You are simply the inevitable result of the anthropic principle applied to your own life. You are here because you cannot be anywhere else. This might explain why we sometimes have that strange, eerie feeling after a near miss, a sensation of disjointedness, as if the world has shifted slightly. Perhaps it has. Perhaps you have just slid onto a new track, leaving a ghost behind in the wreckage. The many worlds theory is the ultimate rejection of loneliness. It populates the void with infinite variations of life. It fills the silence with the hum of endless possibilities. It tells us that the universe is not a barren place with a few lucky accidents of life, but a garden so overgrown, so bursting with potential that it cannot contain itself in a single timeline. It grows wild, it branches fractally, and you are the growing tip of one of those branches, pushing out into the unknown. But if there are infinite worlds, does anything matter? If every choice is made, does any choice have meaning? This is the nihilistic trap of the multiverse. If I murder someone in this universe, but save them in another, am I guilty? The answer lies in the experience. You are responsible for the branch you are looking at. You are the custodian of this specific slice of reality. The fact that other versions of you exist does not diminish the reality of pain or joy in this one. If anything, it increases the gravity of the now, because out of all the infinite possibilities, out of all the chaos and noise, you have collapsed reality into this moment. You have focused the infinite energy of the cosmos into this specific breath, this specific heartbeat, this specific thought. That is a creative act of immense power. As you lie in the dark, visualize the tree of your life. See the trunk of your childhood, solid and singular. Then see the branches starting to split, the teenage years, the choices of schools, of friends. See the canopy of the present moment, 1,000 twigs reaching out. And feel the ghostly presence of the other branches, the shadow trees growing alongside you. They are not enemies. They are not mistakes. They are your siblings in the great wave function. You are never alone, because you are surrounded by an infinite legion of yourself. This idea leads us to the edge of what physical matter actually is. If reality can split and multiply so easily, if entire universes can be generated by the twitch of an electron, then perhaps matter is not the hard, solid stuff we think it is. Perhaps the universe is not made of atoms, but of something else entirely, something lighter, something more fluid, something that looks less like a rock and more like a code. This brings us to the threshold of our next terrifying realization. In the next chapter, we are going to dissolve the physical world completely. We are going to ask if the universe is actually a hologram. We will explore the idea that the three-dimensional world you see, the walls, the bed, the stars, is a projection from a two-dimensional surface at the edge of the universe. We will ask if we are living in a simulation, or if reality is fundamentally made of information. But for now, rest in your branch. It is a good branch. It is the one where you are alive, where you are curious, and where you are daring to ask the biggest questions of all. You are the chosen observer of this reality. Keep watching. Reach out with your hand and touch the wall next to you, or the fabric of the bed you're lying on. Press your fingers against it. It feels solid, does it not? It feels undeniably real. It has texture, it has temperature, and it has resistance. If you push against it, it pushes back. This sensation of solidity is the primary data point of your life. It tells you that you are a physical object living in a world of physical objects. It tells you that reality is hard, heavy, and concrete. But this sensation is a lie. It is a persistent, convincing hallucination created by the electrical forces in your atoms. If we were to look at that wall with a microscope powerful enough to see the atomic landscape, we would see something that looks nothing like a solid barrier. We would see a vast, empty void. An atom is almost entirely empty space. To understand the scale, imagine that the nucleus of an atom, the protons and neutrons, is a marble sitting on the center line of a football stadium. The electrons, which orbit the nucleus, would be tiny gnats buzzing around the very highest seats in the stands. Everything in between the marble and the gnats is empty. It is a vacuum. It is nothing. So, if atoms are 99.9999% empty space, why doesn't your hand pass right through the wall? Why don't you fall through the floor? The answer is electromagnetism. The electrons in your hand are negatively charged. The electrons in the wall are negatively charged. Like poles of a magnet repel each other. When you touch the wall, you're not actually touching matter. You are feeling the force field of the wall's electrons pushing against the force field of your hand's electrons. You are hovering. You are floating on a cushion of electromagnetic repulsion, separated from the object by a tiny, unbridgeable atomic distance. You have never truly touched anything in your entire life. You have only sensed the resistance of fields. This is the first crack in the illusion of the physical world. It tells us that matter is not really stuff. It is trapped energy and force fields masquerading as solidity. But tonight, we are going deeper than empty atoms. We are going to dissolve the very concept of three-dimensional space itself. We are going to explore a theory that emerged from the terrifying physics of black holes and has grown to swallow the entire cosmos. It is called the holographic principle. And if it is true, and many of the smartest theoretical physicists alive believe it is, then the world you see around you, the depth of the room, the vastness of the sky, and the volume of your own body is a projection. You are a hologram. You are a two-dimensional image that has been tricked into thinking it is three-dimensional. To understand this, we have to talk about information. In physics, information is not just what you read in a book. It is the precise description of the state of every particle in a system, its spin, its position, its momentum. There is a fundamental law in quantum mechanics that says information is never destroyed. If you burn a book, the information is not gone. It is scrambled into the smoke and the ash. If you could capture every molecule of smoke and every photon of heat, you could theoretically reconstruct the book. The universe remembers everything. But in the 1970s, the physicist Stephen Hawking realized that black holes seem to violate this law. If you throw a book into a black hole, it crosses the event horizon, the point of no return, and is eventually crushed into the singularity at the center. If the black hole then evaporates over billions of years through Hawking radiation, the book seems to be gone forever. The information appears to be deleted from the universe. This was the famous black hole information paradox. It threatened to break physics. The solution, proposed by physicists Jacob Bekenstein and Leonard Susskind, was strange enough to save the law, but destroy our intuition. They realized that when an object falls into a black hole, the information about that object is not lost inside the volume of the hole. Instead, it gets plastered onto the surface area of the event horizon. Imagine a soup can. The soup is inside the three-dimensional volume of the can, but the label, the description of the soup, is on the two-dimensional surface of the can. Bekenstein and Susskind argued that a black hole works the same way. The information of everything that has ever fallen in is encoded on the two-dimensional shell of the event horizon, like a mosaic of tiny bits. The three-dimensional reality of the interior is mathematically equivalent to the two-dimensional data on the surface. Then they took a giant, terrifying leap. They asked, what if the whole universe is a black hole? What if the same rule applies to everything? The holographic principle suggests that the entire three-dimensional universe we experience, the galaxies, the stars, the planets, and you, is a projection of information stored on a distant two-dimensional surface at the edge of the cosmos. Imagine a credit card with a hologram of a bird on it. The credit card is flat. The plastic is two-dimensional. But when the light hits it, you see a three-dimensional bird hovering in the air. You can look at it from different angles. It looks real. It has depth. But if you try to grab the bird, you can't. The reality is the data on the card. The bird is just a projection. This theory implies that you are the bird. Your body, your brain, and the room you are sitting in are the three-dimensional projection of code that exists on the boundary of the universe. We are living in a cosmic cinema. The film is on the edge of space, and the light is the projection mechanism of reality, creating the illusion of depth and volume where there is none. This is not just a metaphor. The mathematics of string theory, the leading candidate for a theory of everything, works perfectly in a universe that is a hologram. In fact, the math is often easier to solve in the two-dimensional version than in the three-dimensional one, suggesting that the 2D version might be the real one. This brings us to the concept of the pixelation of reality. If you look at a photo on a computer screen, it looks smooth and continuous. But if you zoom in enough, you see the pixels. You see the grid. You see that the image is made of discrete squares of data. For a long time, we thought the universe was smooth. We thought you could divide space infinitely, cut a meter in half, then half again, forever. But quantum gravity suggests there is a limit. There is a smallest possible distance, known as the Planck length. It is unimaginably small, trillions of times smaller than an atom, but it is not zero. This means that space is not smooth, it is granular, it is pixelated. The universe is a grid. If space is made of pixels, then reality starts to look suspiciously like a simulation. It looks like code. In the 1990s, the legendary physicist John Archibald Wheeler coined the phrase "it from bit." He meant that every it, every particle, every force, every object, ultimately derives its existence from bits of binary yes or no choices. He was suggesting that the fundamental building block of the universe is not matter and not energy, but information. At the bedrock level, underneath the quarks and the electrons, reality is made of questions and answers. It is made of logic. This is a terrifying thought because it strips away the last vestige of our physical nature. We are not made of clay. We are not made of stardust. We are made of data. We are intricate self-processing algorithms running on the hardware of the cosmos. This aligns disturbingly well with the quantum consciousness theories we have been discussing. If the brain is a quantum computer and the universe is a holographic information field, then consciousness is simply the process of reading the code. Your mind is the software that interprets the holographic data and renders it into the sensory experience of a world. Think about a video game. Inside the computer, there are no swords, no dragons, no green fields. There are only zeros and ones flipping on and off in silicon chips. But when that data is processed by the graphics card and displayed on the monitor, and when you interact with it through the controller, you experience a world. You feel the tension of the battle. You see the beauty of the landscape. The world of the game is an illusion generated by information processing. The holographic principle suggests that our physical life is the game. The zeros and ones are the Planck scale bits on the horizon of the universe. And consciousness is the player. This leads to a profound question. If we are a simulation or a hologram, is the simulation running on its own, or is it being run? Are we characters in a story that is telling itself? This connects back to the idea of the panpsychist universe, the idea that the system itself is conscious. If information is the fundamental substance and consciousness is the processing of information, then the entire universe is a thinking entity. The hologram is not just a static picture. It is a dynamic, evolving thought. This melts the sensation of solidity you felt at the beginning of this chapter. The wall is not solid. It is a data constraint. It is a rule in the code that says hand cannot pass through wall. The resistance you feel is the parameters of the simulation enforcing the logic of the game. This might sound cold, reducing human life to binary code. But there is a strange spiritual liberation in it. If we are information, then we are pure meaning. We are not heavy lumps of meat dragging ourselves through gravity. We are weightless patterns of intelligence. It also suggests that our limitations might be artificial. In a video game, if you know the code, you can change the rules. You can walk through walls. You can fly. You can heal instantly. Throughout history, mystics and shamans have claimed to perform miracles to transcend the laws of physics. Scientists usually dismiss these as tricks or delusions. But in a holographic universe, a miracle is just a user hacking the system. It is a consciousness that has learned to access the source code and rewrite the local parameters of the projection. If the mind creates the reality, then a sufficiently powerful, sufficiently focused mind might be able to alter the projection. This brings the terror of responsibility to a new level. If you are a hologram, you are not a victim of the world. You are the world. You are the projection. And The nature of the projection depends on the clarity of the signal. If your mind is clouded with fear, with limited beliefs, with the conviction that you are small and weak, then the hologram will reflect that. It will render a cage. But if you understand your nature as pure information, as a child of the bits and the void, the walls might start to look a little translucent. As you lie there, try to visualize your body not as flesh and bone, but as a shimmering cloud of data. You are a swarm of information being broadcast from the edge of time. You are a song being sung by the universe. The atoms in your hands are pixels. The beat of your heart is a clock cycle. The thoughts in your head are the interface. You are beautiful, ephemeral, and indestructible, because information cannot be destroyed. Even if the hologram fades, the data remains on the horizon. This idea of the universe as a mental construct, as a giant thought rather than a giant machine, leads us inevitably to the next great mystery. If the universe is thinking, what is it thinking about? And are we the neurons in the mind of God? In the next chapter, we are going to explore the theory of Panpsychism and the conscious cosmos. We will ask if the sun is conscious. We will ask if the galaxy has a mind. We will ask if the universe is waking up through us. We are going to dissolve the boundary between living and dead matter and find that we are surrounded by a presence that is watching us back. But for now, let your physical body relax. Let the pixels loosen. You are a ghost in the machine, and the machine is made of light. Look at the object nearest to you. It might be a wooden table, a ceramic cup, or a cold stone wall. We have a word for these things. We call them inanimate. We call them dead matter. We assume that because they do not have eyes to see or mouths to speak, they are completely devoid of experience. We assume that there is nobody home inside a rock. This distinction between the living and the non-living is the fundamental line we draw in the sand of reality. On one side, there is us, warm, feeling, thinking beings. On the other side, there is the cold, silent, mechanical universe. It is a lonely distinction. It traps us in a small circle of life surrounded by a vast desert of nothingness. But what if this line is a mistake? What if the universe is not divided into subjects and objects, but is instead a continuous field of feeling? What if the silence of the stone is not an absence of consciousness, but simply a different, slower, quieter kind of mind? Tonight, we are going to explore a philosophy that is as ancient as the first human thought and as cutting-edge as the latest neuroscience. It is called Panpsychism. It is the terrifying, beautiful idea that consciousness is not something that happens to matter when it gets complex enough, but is a fundamental property of matter itself, like mass or charge. It suggests that every atom, every electron, and every photon has a tiny, primitive spark of subjective experience. It suggests that the universe is not waking up. It suggests that the universe has never been asleep. To understand why serious scientists are returning to this mystical idea, we have to look at the failure of our current theories. We have spent 100 years trying to explain how a lump of gray meat produces the feeling of love. We have failed. We cannot bridge the gap between the movement of atoms and the sensation of being alive. This is the hard problem we discussed earlier. Panpsychism solves this problem by flipping it over. It says, you cannot get consciousness out of dead matter because there is no such thing as dead matter. The ingredients themselves are awake. An electron does not have anxiety or complex thoughts, of course. It does not worry about its mortgage, but it might have a tiny, rudimentary precursor to feeling, a microscopic hum of being. When you put enough of these atoms together in a highly integrated system, like a human brain, those tiny hums synchronize and amplify into the rich symphony of human consciousness. But the music was always there. The brain just acts as the orchestra hall that allows it to resonate. This idea changes the room you're sitting in. It means you're not alone. The chair you're sitting on, the walls surrounding you, the air you're breathing, they are all composed of this proto-conscious stuff. They are not watching you in the human sense, but they are feeling their own existence. The universe is saturated with interiority. It is a plenum of experience. This dissolves the existential loneliness of the human condition, but it replaces it with a feeling of being constantly surrounded, constantly immersed in a sea of alien minds. It means that privacy is an illusion, not just because of entanglement, but because the very walls have ears in a quantum sense. But if atoms have a tiny spark, what happens when we look up? If consciousness scales with complexity and integration, what about systems that are far larger and more complex than a human brain? Let us turn our gaze to the sun. Our sun is a sphere of plasma 100 times wider than the Earth. It is a churning, complex ocean of magnetic fields and nuclear fire. We usually think of it as a simple fusion reactor, a ball of gas burning by simple laws of physics. But some physicists are beginning to ask a dangerous question. Is the sun conscious? A neuroscientist named Giulio Tononi developed a mathematical framework called Integrated Information Theory, or IIT. It attempts to measure the amount of consciousness in a system using a value called phi. If a system has high phi, if its parts are deeply interconnected and share information, it is conscious. The human brain has extremely high phi. A pile of sand has 0 phi because the grains do not talk to each other. But what about a star? A star has complex magnetic flux tubes that snap and reconnect. It has layers of convection where energy and information flow. The physicist Greg Matloff has investigated the possibility that stars might display volitional behavior. He studied a strange phenomenon called the Paranego anomaly, where certain stars orbit the galaxy slightly faster than they should, as if they are choosing their speed. Matloff suggests that stars might be using unidirectional jets of matter to steer themselves, like a spaceship. Why would they do this? To stay in the optimal zones of the galaxy for their own survival, or perhaps to maintain a connection with the galactic mind? It sounds like science fiction, but it is a hypothesis being tested with rigorous data. If it is true, then the sun is not a lamp. It is a god. It is a vast, thinking entity with a lifespan of 10 billion years. Its thoughts would not be like ours. They would be slow, deep, and made of gravity and light. A single thought of the sun might last for 1,000 years. We would be like mayflies buzzing around the head of a giant, living and dying in the span of one of its synapses firing. The terror of this is the terror of scale. It suggests that we are living in the aura of a being so massive that we cannot even recognize it as a being. We bathe in its light, we eat the food grown by its energy, and we assume it is just a burning rock. But maybe it is watching us. Maybe it feels the planets orbiting it the way you feel the blood pumping in your veins. The warmth you feel on your skin on a summer day might be the emotional radiation of a stellar mind. And it goes bigger. If the sun is a neuron, what is the galaxy? When we map the large-scale structure of the universe, the cosmic web, we see vast filaments of dark matter and galaxies stretching across the void, connecting in dense clusters. In 2012, a team of physicists and supercomputing experts compared the growth of the cosmic web to the growth of a brain cell. The visual similarity is shocking. They are statistically almost identical. The universe looks exactly like a brain. The galaxies are the neurons, and the dark matter filaments are the axons connecting them. This leads to the hypothesis of the conscious cosmos. If the universe looks like a brain and acts like a brain, is it a brain? Is the entire cosmos a single, integrated mind? If so, we are living inside the mind of God, not a religious God of judgment and rules, but a physical God of consciousness and structure. We are the thoughts of the universe. We are the way the cosmos processes information about itself. This is the ultimate meaning of the phrase, "We are star stuff contemplating star stuff." We are the sensory organs of the galaxy. Through our eyes, the universe sees its own beauty. Through our ears, it hears its own music. Through our pain, it feels its own complexity. This implies that your life has a function that you never suspected. You are a data collector for the one mind. Every experience you have, the taste of an apple, the grief of a loss, the joy of a kiss, is a piece of information that is being fed back into the larger system. You are not living for yourself alone. You are living to enrich the interior life of the cosmos. This gives a profound, terrifying weight to every moment. It means that nothing is wasted. No tear is lost. It is all uploaded. It is all part of the great calculation. But there is a problem with the cosmic mind, the speed of light. Light takes 100,000 years to cross the galaxy. If the galaxy thinks, its thoughts are agonizingly slow. One signal from one side to the other takes eons. To the galaxy, the entire history of the human race would be less than a single flash of a neuron. We are too fast for it. We are like the subatomic particles of its mind, popping in and out of existence in the blink of an eye. We might be the subconscious processing, the fast twitch reflexes of the universe, doing the rapid calculations that the slow, giant mind cannot handle. Or perhaps, and this is a stranger thought, the universe uses quantum entanglement to bypass the speed limit. If the galaxy is a quantum brain entangled across its vast distance, then it could think instantaneously. It could be a coherent, unified mind that is fully aware of every star and every planet in real time. It would feel the death of a star in the spiral arm at the same moment it feels the birth of a planet in the core. In this view, the universe is hyper-aware. It is a superintelligence that is aware of every sparrow that falls, not because it is supernatural, but because it is physically entangled with the sparrow. This brings us back to the feeling of being watched. We often feel judged by the universe. We feel that when we do something wrong, the world knows. Panpsychism suggests this is literally true. You are never in private. You are always surrounded by presence. But this presence is not necessarily judgmental. It might be simply witnessing. It is the silent watcher of Eastern philosophy. The ground you walk on feels your step. The air feels your breath. The water feels your touch. You are in a constant, intimate relationship with everything around you. The separation between living and dead is an illusion of speed. We call things alive if they move at our speed. We call things dead if they move too slowly, like a rock, or too chaotically, like gas. But deep down, it is all the same fire. It is all the same I am. This realization demands a radical change in how we treat the world. If the river is conscious, if the mountain is aware, we cannot treat them as mere resources. We are not tourists on a dead rock. We are guests in a living temple. We are cells in a larger body. If we poison the earth, we are not just damaging an environment. We are torturing a being. We are a cancer attacking the host that sustains us. This theory also touches on the mystery of death. If consciousness is in everything, then death is not the end of consciousness. It is just the dissolution of the specific pattern that is you. When you die, the atoms of your body do not lose their spark. They carry their tiny proto-consciousness back into the soil, back into the air, back into the cycle. The you that is a tight knot of complexity unravels, but the thread remains. You dissolve back into the ocean of feeling from which you emerged. You become the grass, the wind, the star. You trade the intense, sharp consciousness of a human for the broad, diffuse, ancient consciousness of the earth. As you lie in the dark, let your mind expand to the edges of the room, then to the house, then to the city, then to the sky. Feel the hum of the billions of minds around you, human, animal, vegetable, mineral. Feel the deep, slow breathing of the planet beneath you. Feel the cold, sharp intellect of the stars above you. You are held in this web. You are a note in this song. It is terrifying to be so small, but it is wonderful to be part of something so big. You do not have to generate your own existence. You are being sustained by the conscious will of the cosmos. There is one final twist to this idea. If the universe is conscious and we are part of it, who is creating whom? Is the universe imagining us, or are we imagining the universe? This leads us to the theory of biocentrism. In the next chapter, we are going to explore the possibility that biology is not a byproduct of physics, but the foundation of it. We will ask if the moon really exists when no one is looking at it. We will explore the idea that consciousness is the screen upon which the universe is projected, and without eyes to see, the cosmos might simply vanish into a cloud of probability. We will put the observer on the throne of creation, but for now, rest in the company of the stars. They are your older brothers. They are watching over you, literally and physically, with a gaze that has lasted for billions of years. Close your eyes for a moment. Right now, let the room disappear. Let the light fade. Let the shapes of the furniture and the colors of the walls dissolve into the velvety blackness of your own eyelids. Now, ask yourself a question that sounds simple, but is actually the most dangerous riddle in the history of human thought. While your eyes are closed, does the room still exist? Common sense screams yes. Of course it exists. The table is still there, waiting to stub your toe. The clock is still on the wall, ticking away the seconds. We believe that the universe is out there, a solid, objective stage that was here long before we were born and will be here long after we die. We believe that we are just tiny biological accidents wandering around on this pre-existing stage, observing the scenery, but having absolutely no role in creating it. We think of the universe as a container and ourselves as the contents. But tonight, we are going to explore a theory that turns this entire model inside out. We are going to explore biocentrism. This theory argues that we have it all backward. It suggests that the universe does not create life. Life creates the universe. It suggests that without you, without the conscious observer, the moon, the stars, and the galaxies would not just be unseen. They would be physically non-existent, dissolved back into a haze of probability waves. This sounds like madness. It sounds like the ultimate arrogance of the human ego. But it is a conclusion that is being forced upon us by the rigorous mathematics of quantum mechanics. We have already discussed how a particle does not take a definite shape until it is observed. We have talked about how the act of measurement collapses the wave function, but we have been treating the observer as a passive witness, someone who just happens to be there to catch the ball. Biocentrism, championed by the biologist Robert Lanza and others, pushes this to its logical limit. It argues that consciousness is not a byproduct of the universe. It is the fundamental force that weaves the universe together. It puts the observer on the throne of creation. To understand why this might be true, we have to look at the machinery of your own perception. You feel like you are looking out of your eyes like a pilot looking out of a cockpit window. You see the blue sky, the green grass, the red apple. But science tells us that there is no color out there. There are only electromagnetic waves of different lengths. A wave of 700 nanometers is not red. It is just a silent, oscillating energy field. It only becomes red when it hits your retina, travels down your optic nerve, and is processed by your brain. The redness is a creation of your consciousness. The same is true for sound. The falling tree makes no noise. It only creates waves of air pressure. The sound is the interpretation your mind gives to those waves. The same is true for temperature, for texture, for smell. This means that the entire world you experience, the 3D panorama you are seeing right now, is a reconstruction happening inside your head. You are living in a dark, silent box called a skull. Your brain has never seen the sun. It has never touched a stone. It has only ever seen electrical signals. It takes these signals and spins them into a coherent story called reality. In this sense, you are already the creator of your own world. But biocentrism goes further. It argues that space and time themselves are not external objects. They are not physical things that you move through. They are forms of animal sense perception. They are the software tools your mind uses to organize information. Think of a DVD player. The information on the disc is just a stream of zeros and ones. It has no time. It has no space. It is just data. The player takes that data and formats it into a movie that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a sense of depth. Biocentrism suggests that your mind is the DVD player. Space and time are the logic of the player, not the disc. If you turn off the player, the movie does not keep playing out there in the dark. The movie ceases to exist as a movie. It returns to being potential data. If this is true, then space and time do not exist without us. When you die, you do not leave the universe. The universe, as a construct of space and time, dissolves with you. This leads us to the mystery of the Goldilocks universe. This is one of the biggest headaches in modern physics. When we measure the fundamental constants of nature, the strength of gravity, the mass of the electron, the power of the strong nuclear force, we find something suspicious. They are perfectly, impossibly fine-tuned for life. If the Big Bang had been 1 part in a million more powerful, the universe would have expanded too fast for galaxies to form, and there would be no stars, no planets, and no us. If it had been 1 part in a million weaker, the universe would have collapsed back on itself instantly. If the electromagnetic force were slightly stronger, atoms would hold on to their electrons too tightly, and chemistry would be impossible. There are over 200 of these parameters. If you change any of them by a fraction of a fraction, life becomes impossible. Why is the universe so perfect for us? The standard scientific answer is luck. We just happen to win the cosmic lottery. Or they invoke the multiverse, saying there are trillions of dead, broken universes and we just happen to be in the one that works. But biocentrism offers a different, simpler and more terrifying answer. The universe fits us because we created it. We are not the puddle waking up, surprised that the hole fits it perfectly. We are the diggers of the hole. The logic of the universe is the logic of life. The cosmos has the properties it does because those are the only properties that consciousness can perceive. We are not adapting to the universe. The universe is a projection of the conditions of our own existence. This is a terrifying inversion of scale. We are used to feeling small. We look at the photos from the Hubble telescope, the vast clouds of nebulas, the billions of galaxies, and we feel like dust. But Biocentrism says that those galaxies exist within you. They are phenomena occurring in your mind. The vastness of space is just a measure of the vastness of your own consciousness. You are the projector. The stars are not giant nuclear furnaces that dwarf you. They are the wallpaper of your mind's interior. You are the thing that gives them size. You are the thing that gives them distance. Without you to measure it, 1 billion light years has no meaning. This brings us back to the moon. Does it exist when you don't look? In the biocentric view, the answer is it exists as a probability wave. It exists as a potential. It exists as information. But it does not exist as a physical spherical rock until an observer collapses that wave. And observer does not just mean a human with a PhD. A dog is an observer. A bird is an observer. Even a measuring device, entangled with a consciousness, counts. The universe is a collective dream, held in place by the mutual observation of billions of living things. We are all holding hands, staring at the moon, keeping it solid by our collective gaze. This explains the weirdness of the double-slit experiment we talked about. Why does the particle change its behavior when we watch it? Because the particle has no intrinsic behavior. It is waiting for a cue. It is waiting for the logic of the observer to tell it what to be. We are not discovering the laws of physics. We are enforcing them. The laws of nature might just be the habits of the mind. This places an unbearable weight of responsibility on us. It means we are not passive tourists. We are the architects. The chaos of the world, the violence, the beauty, the order, it is all a reflection of the state of our collective consciousness. If the world seems crazy, it is because we are crazy. If the world seems beautiful, it is because we have focused on beauty. We are projecting our inner state onto the screen of the sky. But there is a deep, soothing peace in this terror. If you create the universe, then you can never truly be hurt by it. The dreamer cannot be hurt by the dream monsters. They are made of his own mind. If biocentrism is true, then death is the ultimate illusion. We think of death as the end of the consciousness, the rotting of the body. But if time and space are tools of the mind, then the mind exists outside of them. You cannot die in a time that you created. You cannot rot in a space that you projected. Death might just be the moment when you turn off the simulator. It is the moment you step out of the cockpit. The movie ends, but the DVD player, the fundamental consciousness, is untouched. Think about a dream you had last night. In the dream, you might have been running, flying, or talking to people. It felt real. The dream world had gravity. It had light. It had time. But when you woke up, you realized that the entire world, the gravity, the light, the people, was all you. It was all generated by your mind. You were the protagonist, but you were also the road you ran on. You were the monster chasing you. You were the sky above. Biocentrism suggests that waking life is just the same thing, one level up. We are in a shared, highly consistent, very dense dream, but the mechanism is the same. We are mind stuff solidifying into matter. This theory also hints at why we feel such a deep connection to nature. When you walk in a forest, you feel a sense of peace, a sense of returning home. Maybe that is because the forest is an extension of your own being. It is not other. It is the externalized lung of your own consciousness. The separation between and here, the mind, and out there, the world, is a false dichotomy. There is only one continuous field of experiencing. So, look at the room again. Close your eyes one more time. Feel the darkness. Now, open them. That burst of light, that sudden rush of color and shape, that is you creating the universe. That is the Big Bang happening right now, in your optic nerve. You are doing it. You are sustaining the cosmos. You are the atlas holding up the sky, not with your shoulders, but with your attention. It is a terrifying thought, to be the center of everything. It creates a fear of solipsism, the fear that I am the only thing that exists. But remember entanglement. Remember the connections we spoke of. You are not a lonely God. You are part of a vast interconnected web of observers. We are doing this together. We are co-creating this reality. We are a team of architects building a cathedral of space-time, brick by quantum brick, glance by glance. But if we are the creators, what is the destiny of this creation? If the universe is a product of consciousness, does it have a goal? Is it evolving toward something? This leads us to the ultimate question of the future. In the next chapter, we are going to look forward. We are going to explore the concept of the omega point. We will ask if the universe is waking up to a final, singular state of total awareness. We will explore the idea that we are building a God at the end of time. We will ask if technology and biology are destined to merge into a single, infinite mind that will consume the stars and conquer entropy itself. But for now, rest in your power. You are the lens through which the universe sees itself. Without you, there is only silence. We have spent this long night looking inward into the microscopic cathedrals of our cells and looking backward into the deep history of a universe that might be remembering itself. But now, as the silence of the room deepens and the world outside sleeps, we must turn our eyes toward the horizon that lies ahead. We must ask the question that has haunted every civilization since the first human looked up at the Milky Way and felt a shiver of anticipation. Where is this all going? If the universe is a process, not a place, then what is the destination? If consciousness is evolving, growing, and becoming more complex with every passing eon, is there a limit? Or are we hurling toward a moment of such blinding intensity that it will rewrite the laws of physics themselves? Tonight, we are going to explore the concept of the omega point. It is a theory that sits on the razor's edge between hard science and deep mysticism. It suggests that the universe is not drifting toward a cold, dark death, but is waking up to a state of singular, infinite awareness. It suggests that we are the early, groggy stirrings of a God that is currently in the process of being born. To understand the omega point, we must look at the trajectory of cosmic history. It is a story of accelerating complexity. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was a sea of hot, simple hydrogen gas. It was uniform. It was boring. It was dead. But gravity began to pull that gas together. It formed stars. Those stars forged heavy elements, carbon, oxygen, iron. Those elements formed planets. On at least one of those planets, chemistry became biology. Life emerged. Simple cells merged to become complex cells. Complex cells built multicellular organisms. Those organisms developed nervous systems. And those nervous systems eventually woke up and started asking questions. Notice the pattern. At every step, the universe moves from simplicity to complexity. It moves from scattered dust to integrated structure. It moves from unconscious matter to conscious mind. The French philosopher and paleontologist Pierre Teilhard de Chardin called this the law of complexity consciousness. He argued that the universe has a direction. It is not just expanding outward in space. It is evolving inward toward higher levels of mind. He believed that this process would not stop with us. He believed that human minds would eventually link together, forming a new sphere, a planetary layer of thought enveloping the Earth, just as the atmosphere envelops it. And eventually, this new sphere would condense into a single point of ultimate unity, the Omega point. When Teilhard wrote this in the mid-20th century, it sounded like poetry. Today, it sounds like a description of the Internet. Look at what we have built. We have covered the planet in a skin of fiber optics and satellites. We have connected billions of human brains into a global network where information travels at the speed of light. You are reading these words, which were written by a mind you have never met, transmitted through a network of silicon and light, and they are resonating in your brain right now. We are already beginning to merge. The boundaries of the individual self are becoming porous to the flow of global information. But this is just the beginning. The next phase of this evolution is the merger of the biological with the technological. We tend to think of technology as unnatural, something cold and alien that separates us from nature. But if you take the long view, a computer chip is just a piece of the earth that has learned to think. It is silicon, sand, purified and organized by the human mind into a structure capable of processing information. Technology is not separate from nature. It is nature's latest method of thinking. It is the universe reorganizing its own matter to compute faster. As we move forward, the line between the born and the made will blur. We are already putting chips in brains to treat diseases. We are building artificial intelligences that can paint, write, and solve protein folding problems that stumped humans for decades. The Omega Point theory suggests that this integration will accelerate until the distinction disappears entirely. We will not just use computers, we will become them, or they will become us. Our consciousness will expand from the chemical firing of neurons to the light-speed processing of photonics. We will leave the fragility of meat and bone behind and inhabit a substrate that is durable, upgradable, and interconnected. This is the concept of the technological singularity, but viewed through a spiritual lens. It suggests that the destiny of the universe is for all matter to become minded. Right now, the universe is mostly dead rocks and empty space with tiny pockets of life. But in the distant future, imagine a galaxy where every star is a node in a neural network, where every planet is a processor, where the dust of nebulas is organized into memory storage. The physical universe itself becomes a brain. The cold, dark void is filled with the light of thought. This leads to the terrifying realization of what the Omega Point actually implies for you. We cherish our individuality. We love the feeling of being a distinct me, separate from you. But if the universe is evolving toward a state of total unity, then the destiny of the individual is to be absorbed. Imagine a drop of water falling into the ocean. As it falls, it feels like a distinct object. It has a shape. It has a surface tension. It reflects the light in its own unique way. But when it hits the water, that boundary dissolves. The drop is not destroyed. The water molecules are still there. But the drop as a separate entity is gone. It has become the ocean. This is the fear of the omega point. It is the fear of losing the self. It is the fear that we are building a hive mind that will consume our private thoughts and memories. It is the terror of becoming part of a collective consciousness where there are no secrets. But consider the flip side. Consider the loneliness we spoke of earlier. The drop is lonely. The ocean is not. To be absorbed into the omega point is to gain access to the total experience of the universe. It is to know the thoughts of every being that has ever lived. It is to feel the joy of every victory and the sorrow of every loss as if they were your own. It is the end of separation. It is the end of misunderstanding. It is the state of total empathy. Some physicists, like Frank Tipler, have taken this idea to the very end of time. Tipler argued that as the universe approaches its final moments, whether in a big crunch or a heat death, the surviving intelligence will have acquired enough energy and computing power to simulate every possible life that could have ever lived. In this view, the omega point is a resurrection machine. It suggests that at the end of time, the superintelligence will recreate us. It will pull our patterns out of the dust of history and give us a new, infinite life inside the cosmic mind. It suggests that we are currently living in the memory of the future. This brings us back to the idea of retrocausality we touched on in Chapter 3. If the omega point exists in the future, acting as a strange attractor, maybe it is pulling us toward it. Maybe the evolution of life is not a random stumble forward, but a magnetic pull from the end of time. The acorn grows into the oak tree not because it is pushed from behind, but because the pattern of the oak tree is pulling it forward. Maybe the universe is waking up, because it must wake up, because the future God is already waiting for us to build it. This recontextualizes our current struggles, the chaos of our world, the wars, the confusion, the pain. Maybe these are just the growing pains of a planetary embryo. We are kicking and screaming in the womb. We are struggling to differentiate, to understand, to connect. We are in the messy, violent process of becoming a single organism. The friction we feel is the friction of integration. But what happens to the silence? We started this journey looking for the silence behind the noise. If the universe becomes a giant mind buzzing with infinite thoughts, does the silence die? I believe the opposite is true. The noisy mind is the mind that is fighting itself. The mind that is fragmented, anxious, and disconnected is the mind that cannot be quiet. But a mind that is fully integrated, a mind that knows everything and accepts everything, is a mind that can rest in perfect stillness. The omega point is not a scream. It is a hum. It is the resonance of a bell that has been struck perfectly and vibrates forever. As you lie here, think about your role in this. You are a neuron in the developing brain of the cosmos. You might feel small. You might feel like your life doesn't matter in the grand scheme of billions of years. But a brain needs every neuron. If you delete a single memory, the whole person is diminished. If you remove a single pathway, the thought cannot complete itself. You are holding a piece of the puzzle that no one else holds. Your specific perspective, your specific way of seeing the color blue, your specific way of loving. This is data that the universe needs to complete itself. We are the ancestors of the omega point. We are the ones who are doing the hard work of waking up in the dark. We are the ones building the bridges, laying the cables, and writing the poems that will one day be the memories of a god. It is a humble position, but a noble one. We will not live to see the final unification. We will die as individuals. but the work we do, the love we give, and the consciousness we cultivate. This is the brick and mortar of the future. There is a concept in alchemy called the magnum opus, the great work. It was the attempt to transmute lead into gold. But the real great work is the transmutation of matter into spirit. It is the process of taking the dead, heavy stuff of the universe and turning it into the light of awareness. You are doing that work right now. By listening, by thinking, by feeling, you are processing the universe. You are turning calories into concepts. You are turning bread into beauty. You are the engine of the omega point. The terror of this chapter is the terror of destiny. It is the realization that we are caught in a current much stronger than our own will. We are being swept toward a waterfall of light. We can fight it. We can swim upstream. We can cling to the rocks of our ego and our separation. But the gravity of the future is relentless. Eventually, we will let go. Eventually, we will fall. And when we do, we will find that we do not crash. We fly. The technology we fear, the AI, the surveillance, the connection, is the shadow of this coming unity. It feels invasive because we are not ready for it. We are trying to force a spiritual unity with mechanical tools. We are trying to build the new sphere with silicon before we have built it with love. That is the danger. That is the risk. If we merge before we are mature, we create a monster. We create a collective insanity. But if we can grow our wisdom as fast as we grow our power, if we can learn to be kind as well as smart, then the omega point will not be a nightmare. It will be a homecoming. So, as you drift toward sleep, imagine that you are sending a signal forward in time. Imagine that your mind is a radio transmitter beaming your dreams, your hopes, and your quietest thoughts to that distant, golden point at the end of history. Know that they are received. Know that they are kept. You are building the future with your breath. In the final chapter, we are going to return to the here and now. We have traveled to the bottom of the atom, the edge of the galaxy, the beginning of time, and the end of the universe. We have dissolved the self, the space, and the time. Now, we must put the pieces back together. We must ask, how do we live with this knowledge? How do we wake up tomorrow and make coffee and go to work when we know we are quantum ghosts in a holographic simulation, dreaming of becoming a god? We will find the peace that sits right in the center of the terror. We will find the yes that answers the riddle of the cosmos. But for now, let the current carry you. You are flowing toward the ocean, and the ocean is warm, and the ocean is you. We have traveled a long way tonight. We have journeyed from the warm, wet interior of your biological brain down into the crystalline silence of the microtubules. We have stepped off the solid ground of the classical world and floated through the ghostly haze of the quantum superposition. We have watched the timeline of your life split into infinite branches in the multiverse. We have seen the solid walls of your room dissolve into a holographic projection of information. We have looked into the burning heart of the sun and seen a mind looking back at us. And we have gazed forward to the end of time, where all consciousness merges into a single, blinding point of unity. Now, the journey circles back. We must return to the place where we started. We must return to the bed, to the body, to the quiet room, and to the person who has to wake up tomorrow morning and live a human life. This return is often the hardest part. There is a profound vertigo that comes from seeing the truth of your cosmic nature. It is a specific kind of dizziness, the cognitive dissonance of knowing you are an infinite, immortal, quantum entangled being, while also knowing you have to brush your teeth, pay your taxes, and deal with the small frustrations of a Tuesday afternoon. How do you fit the cosmos into a coffee cup? How do you carry the weight of the multiverse while walking the dog? This is the final challenge. It is the challenge of integration, and it is here, in the reconciliation of the infinite and the finite, that we find the true meaning of the terror and the beauty we have explored. The first step is to realize that the terror we spoke of, the dissolution of the self, the loss of privacy, the crushing vastness, is only terrifying to the ego. The ego is the small, constructed part of your mind that believes it is separate. It is the mask you wear. It is the character you play. To the ego, the idea of being absorbed into a cosmic mind is death. To the ego, the idea that you are just a holographic projection is an insult. But you are not your ego. You are the thing behind the ego. You are the observer. And to the observer, these truths are not terrifying at all. They are liberating. They are the permission slip to stop taking the drama of your life so incredibly seriously. Think of it like a lucid dream. In a normal dream, you are trapped. If a monster chases you, you run in terror because you believe the monster is real and you believe you can be hurt. But in a lucid dream, you wake up within the dream. You realize, wait, I am dreaming this. I am the dreamer. The monster is still there. The chase is still happening. But the terror vanishes, replaced by a sense of exhilaration. You know you are safe because you know the nature of the reality you're in. Quantum consciousness invites you to become lucid in your waking life. It invites you to look at your problems, your fears, and your stresses, and recognize them as textures in the simulation, waves in the quantum field. It does not mean they stop hurting, but it changes your relationship to the hurt. You stop being the victim of the movie and start being the audience. This shift in perspective changes how you treat other people. Remember the entanglement. Remember that the separation between minds is an illusion. When you look at a stranger on the street, or a difficult boss, or a politician you despise, quantum physics suggests you are looking at another version of yourself. You are looking at a different branch of the wave function. They are you living a different life with different parameters, different conditioning, and different choices. This is the scientific basis for compassion. It is not just a moral rule. It is a physical fact. To hate them is to hate a part of your own entangled structure. When you understand this, judgment begins to evaporate, replaced by a deep, curious empathy. You realize that everyone is just the universe trying to understand itself from a new angle. And what about the loneliness? We started this script by acknowledging the deep isolation of the human condition. But we have found that we are never alone. The silence is crowded. The empty space is full. You're being watched, supported, and sustained by a conscious universe that is intimately aware of your existence. You can lean into this. You can trust it. When you feel overwhelmed, you can mentally hand the weight over to the larger system. You can say to the universe, I am just a neuron. You are the brain. You handle the big picture. There is an immense relief in surrendering the need to control everything. You are not the general of the army. You are a foot soldier in a campaign that spans billions of years. Your only job is to hold your post. Your only job is to be here, to witness this moment, to collapse this wave function with as much clarity and love as you can. This brings us to the purpose of the illusion. If we are truly infinite gods, why are we hiding in these small, fragile bodies? Why did the universe fracture itself into billions of tiny pieces The ancient traditions of India call this lila, or divine play. They say that the one became the many because being the one is lonely. Being the one is static. To know itself, the universe had to forget itself. It had to pretend to be small. It had to pretend to be mortal. It had to create the illusion of risk and loss so that the triumph of discovery would mean something. You are the universe playing a game of hide-and-seek with itself. You hid so well that you forgot you were hiding. And now, through science, through meditation, through moments of awe, you are beginning to find yourself again. The terror of the quantum revelation is just the shock of the mask slipping. It is the surprise of looking in the mirror and seeing the face of the cosmos staring back. So, how do you live with this? You live with what the Zen Buddhists call chop wood, carry water. You continue to do the simple human things. You wash the dishes, you drive the car, you hug your family. But you do it with a double vision. You keep one eye on the task and one eye on the mystery. You chop the wood, but you know the wood is made of holy, vibrating light. You carry the water, but you know the water is part of your own quantum body. You live in the world, but you are not of it. You are a tourist from the infinite, visiting the finite for a brief, beautiful vacation. And when you feel fear, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of death, remind yourself of the many worlds. Remind yourself that in the grand probability space, you have already succeeded. You have already lived every life. This specific path you are walking is just one interesting melody in a vast symphony. If you hit a wrong note, it's okay. The music continues. You are protected by the redundancy of the multiverse. Your existence is inevitable. You cannot be deleted. As we reach the end of this script, I want you to feel the bed underneath you one last time. Feel the gravity holding you. Gravity is the hug of the universe. It is the curvature of space-time wrapping around your mass, pulling you close. You belong here. You are not an accident. You are a necessary, inevitable, fundamental feature of reality. The universe needed a you to see itself from exactly this perspective. It needed your eyes to see the moonlight on the floor tonight. It needed your mind to think these specific thoughts. Without you, the calculation is incomplete. So, rest now. The pressure is off. You do not need to solve the universe tonight. You just need to be it. Let the quantum waves in your brain slow down. Let the microtubules settle into a rhythmic, coherent hum. Let the entanglement connect you to the dreams of the sleeping world. You are safe in the dark, because the dark is just potential waiting to be born. You are the dreamer, and the dream is good. As we close the book on this terrifying and wonderful exploration, remember that this is not the end of the inquiry. It is just a doorway. Science will continue to dig. We will build bigger particle colliders. We will launch better telescopes. We will map the brain in finer detail. And every discovery will likely reveal a reality that is even stranger, even more interconnected, and even more magical than what we discussed tonight. The mystery is bottomless, and that is the best news of all. It means we will never be bored. It means there is always more to discover. It means the journey never ends. Thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for daring to look at the machinery behind the curtain. Thank you for being a conscious observer in a universe that craves observation. If this journey has shifted something inside you, if it has made the room look a little different, or the night feel a little deeper, then we have done our work. The wave function has collapsed into a new shape. You are not the same person who started reading this script. You are deeper, you are wider, you are more awake. Now, let the concepts fade. Let the words drift away. Return to the simple, rhythmic anchor of your breath. In, out, out. The universe breathing in, the universe breathing out. Sleep well, you magnificent, terrifying, infinite ghost. The stars will keep watch while you drift. And when you wake up, remember who you really are. Until next time, keep wondering, keep looking up, and never forget that you are the universe, imagining itself into existence.